A shocked and devastated Diddy spotted at the home where his ex suddenly and mysteriously
put out those pictures of the dude pulling his pants down, and it looked like some gay act that was going on. He got on the phone.
We've all seen the headlines, the courtroom sketches, the viral clips of Diddy in handcuffs, every frame splashed everywhere like it's entertainment. But what if the wildest part of this whole saga isn't the charges lighting up the news right now, but a past tragedy everyone was told to move past, no questions asked? Behind closed doors, something heavy is brewing, a bombshell link-up that could flip the entire narrative around Kim Porter's death. And the people tied to it aren't random voices. They're the ones closest to the truth. Her son, Quincy Brown, and the one artist Diddy could never rein in, 50 Cent. This isn't just another documentary idea floating around for clicks. This looks more like a cold, calculated move, planned quietly for years, with timing that hits way too close to home. Diddy is sitting locked up, his empire cracking, his circle thinning out, and suddenly the two people he allegedly kept quiet are stepping forward together to ask what no one dared to say out loud. That alone has people whispering in the shadows. So here's the question shaking the room. Was Kim Porter's passing in 2018 ever really just a pneumonia, or is there more beneath the surface that never got daylight?
He broke Kim, let's say allegedly, but it was told by people in her camp that he broke Kim's nose on a yacht. So Cassie's story is Kim's story. Cassie's book is Kim's book.
Let's slow it down and be clear about what's happening here. Quincy Brown, the son Diddy helped raise but never fully ran, has been walking a tight line for years. He showed up, stayed respectful, but never rushed to defend his stepfather when rumors about his mother's final days kept buzzing, supportive in public, sure, but noticeably quiet when it mattered most, and that silence is loud. Insiders say that silence was never weakness, it was a straight-up strategy. While Diddy's biological sons, Christian and Justin, got dragged into the legal mess, named in lawsuits, and even caught on camera in handcuffs during those now notorious raids, Quincy stayed clean and untouched. No accusations flying his way, no viral chaos, no messy headlines with his name on them. Just calm, eyes open, waiting for the right move. He didn't rush, he didn't react, he watched and played it smart, a quiet presence in the background, stacking patience while everything else fell apart. And now that Diddy is behind bars, the energy has shifted completely. Sources close to the project say Quincy has been working side by side with 50 Cent, the same 50 whose Netflix expose, Sean Combs' The Reckoning, shook the industry earlier this year like an earthquake. But here's where it gets interesting. As loud and explosive as that documentary was, it barely mentioned Kim Porter at all. That wasn't an accident. Fans noticed, critics questioned it, and conspiracy talk exploded online demanding answers. Now we're hearing that Quincy allegedly held back on purpose, waiting for the exact moment when the real story would finally land. And that moment is right now.
Get out in front of this and, try to persuade Netflix not to come forward with it. I think it's an interesting argument because what they're claiming is, Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, has had a longstanding, animosity against Diddy and sort of vice versa. And because he's at the helm, they're arguing this can't be taken seriously. This should sort of be seen as propaganda. And one of the things that Netflix hit back with was, yes, he's the executive producer. He doesn't necessarily have creative control. And that's something.
And this goes way deeper than family tension or celebrity drama. This is about a passing that was officially labeled natural, but never fully made sense to the people closest to her. Records say Kim Porter passed from lobar pneumonia on November 15, 2018, after a fast decline that started with flu-like symptoms just 8 days earlier. No known long-term illness, no substance history, just a sudden collapse in her Toluca Lake home, where she was found unresponsive in bed by a family member. And that alone still leaves heavy questions hanging in the air. The LA County Medical Examiner wrapped the case up in 2019, calling it a heartbreaking loss, but nothing suspicious at all. Case closed. End of story, or so they said. But this is exactly where the official version starts cracking, because Kim's final days were packed with details that still don't line up for the people who loved her most. She tested negative for the flu, negative for strep. Doctors followed routine steps, antibiotics, vitamins, pain meds, the usual playbook. And here's the part that still throws people off. By November 14th, her family says she was actually improving. The fever broke. Her energy was coming back and she was feeling well enough to get a massage that night. That single detail has raised eyebrows from day one. If she was fighting a serious lung infection, why was a masseuse invited into the house? Who approved that visit? And why has that person's identity never been publicly cleared up? Now look at the timeline, it's wild. November 7th, a sore throat. November 12th, a fever. November 15th, she's gone. For a woman with no known underlying health problems, that kind of decline isn't just fast, it's extremely rare. Yet somehow the file was sealed and labeled finished.
About 4 of them that knows everybody dirty secret.
Then came Al B. Sure, Kim's ex and Quincy's biological father, stepping forward as the first major voice to challenge the story out loud. In July 2020, he posted an emotional video from the morning he found out she passed, paired with words that hit like a hammer. He said, "I know very clearly that Kimberly didn't just check out all of a sudden over pneumonia, that's some BS." The post vanished after Quincy reportedly reached out saying it was triggering, but even then, Al didn't change his stance, not one bit, and he didn't stop there, not even close. In later interviews, Al doubled down hard, hinting that Kim had confided in him about real fears for her safety. He said she sent cryptic messages in her final weeks, messages that sounded like she was running from something she couldn't fully explain, something she couldn't put a name to. That alone sent chills through people who heard it. Then came November 2021, and that's when Al really shook the internet. He posted a throwback photo of himself, Kim, and Quincy, paired with a caption that instantly set social media on fire. "You would never believe what she went through," he wrote, before adding another line that had people decoding every word. He said she once told him, "Life imitating art, art imitating life." Now it all makes sense. The message was loud without saying too much. The implication was clear. Kim saw patterns, connections, warning signs that only clicked after everything fell apart. And just when people thought that was the peak, something even stranger happened. Only months after that post, Al suddenly collapsed in his studio, suffering what doctors described as a mysterious multi-system organ failure. He slipped into a coma for nearly 2 months. He survived, but the timing was impossible to ignore. He speaks out about Kim, then nearly loses his life. That coincidence didn't sit right with anyone watching closely. When Al finally spoke again, he didn't soften a single word. "I believe this to be the case. Yes, absolutely," he said on Fox 5 New York when asked if Diddy or people connected to him were involved. He went even further, claiming there was a bounty on my head. That statement alone pushed this story into a whole new lane.
Somebody phone. Why would you take somebody's tablet or her computer? It was some foul play.
Fast forward to now, and Al's claims aren't being brushed off as fringe talk anymore. They're part of a growing wave demanding real answers. And Quincy, he's allegedly been moving quietly, gathering information, reaching out to former associates, and most importantly, locking in 50 Cent's support for a project that could finally force a public reckoning. And let's be real, 50 isn't just some random filmmaker chasing headlines. He's the same guy who used his Netflix documentary to peel back the layers of Diddy's empire, from the infamous freak-off gatherings to allegations of deep-rooted control. He spent years trolling Diddy online, calling out his connections, and according to insiders, quietly stacking information on one subject that always came back to Kim. No one else wanted to go near Kim's passing like this, and that's exactly why Quincy allegedly linking up with 50 isn't random. It's a loud signal. This isn't about recycling dusty rumors for clicks. It's about lining up dots that have been sitting in plain sight for years, ignored on purpose.
Explain why he's speaking out now.
He said he's speaking out because he believes Diddy's a predator. He wants accountability, and he doesn't want someone like this to run unchecked in the.
So let's talk about those dots. Start with the official ruling. Low bar, pneumonia to be exact. Yes, it's serious, but doctors will tell you it's rarely deadly in otherwise healthy adults, especially not in under a week. Yet Kim, just 47 years old with no known chronic conditions, was gone before paramedics even had a chance to intervene. That alone raises eyebrows. Then there's the memoir, the one her children publicly called fake, and the one Diddy's legal team brushed off as a money grab tied to tragedy. But here's the twist. Multiple people, including producer Chris Todd, have claimed that manuscript was real. They say it existed on a hard drive and allegedly detailed deeply personal moments from Kim's relationship with Diddy. Al B. Sure has gone on record saying Kim's devices, her computer, her notes, vanished after her passing. And when personal records disappear, people start asking serious questions. And don't miss the eerie comparison Al himself pointed out. He said Kim's missing devices, which he believes already held critical information, may have contained proof that never saw the light of day. He even hinted at parallels with other high-profile losses in the music world, referencing alleged removals of prominent artists. A vague comment, but one that made industry insiders exchange knowing looks. Then there's the pattern people can't ignore. Heavy D passed at 44 from a pneumonia-related illness. Bobby Christina Brown was found unresponsive in a bathtub, with lobar pneumonia listed as a contributing factor. Brittany Murphy died at just 32, her death certificate citing pneumonia too, despite her husband later claiming she'd been poisoned. Each case different, each tragic. But when the same medical term keeps popping up, people start connecting dots whether anyone wants them to or not. The connections keep stacking up, and none of them feel random. Every name, every case had ties, some close, some distant, to Diddy's circle, and every single one left behind questions that were never fully answered. That's the part people can't shake.
Put his hands on females, put his hands on producers, executives. That's just his. I guess that's what the whole name bad boy comes from, that people don't really understand. What is it? What is a bad boy? Why did he choose that name? Like he never really gave a clear definition of how he feels about that.
Now bring Quincy back into the picture. The son who was there the night Kim passed. The same one who, according to reports, stayed close to Diddy during the early legal storms. But here's the part that stands out. He never once stepped up publicly to defend him. Not a single statement, not a press move, nothing. And when Homeland Security raided Diddy's properties in 2024, Quincy was noticeably missing. Christian and Justin were photographed in handcuffs, images that went viral instantly. Quincy, nowhere to be seen. That's when whispers started spreading. Quiet talk that Quincy might have been cooperating, that he'd been moving low-key and possibly working with federal authorities. None of that was ever officially confirmed, but the optics spoke loud. It was clear Quincy was playing a different game. And if this documentary is real, we're about to find out exactly why. Insiders say he's been sitting on information for years, holding it tight, waiting for the one moment when Diddy couldn't strike back. That moment is here. The mogul is incarcerated, his legal team scrambling, and former allies flipping sides. This move isn't just bold, it could be devastating. Because if the project delivers what sources claim, this isn't about reopening one case, it's about exposing a pattern, a method, a system of control that, if proven, doesn't stop at Kim's passing. It connects to decades of silence, intimidation, and endings that never sat right.
I'm sorry, I'm just I'm in this moment right now. This is crazy. Sorry. People don't really know how much what it does to you when something that you love is taken from you and thrown away like it don't even matter, and then they move on with their lives and you're stuck. You're stuck. During those years, you're still stuck, 21.
And then there's the 50 Cent factor. The rapper turned mogul has never backed down from smoke, especially not with Diddy. Their feud is legendary, stretching back to the early 2000s when 50 accused Diddy of being involved in the attack that left him shot 9 times. Since then, it's been years of hints, diss tracks, public call-outs, and most recently, that Netflix expose that ripped the curtain back on the darker side of Diddy's empire. But here's what makes this moment different from everything before. 50 isn't just tossing shots from the sidelines anymore. He's allegedly deep in the trenches with Quincy, hands-on, helping shape a project that might finally answer the question that's been hanging in the air since 2018. What really happened to Kim Porter? And if history tells us anything, 50 never moves halfway on anything. Look at his last documentary. It featured never-before-seen footage of Diddy strategizing with his lawyers just days before sentencing, footage nobody even knew existed until it hit the screen. That alone changed the conversation overnight. So if he's sitting on anything remotely similar tied to Kim's case, this won't feel like a documentary. It'll feel like a full detonation. So where does that leave everyone now? Diddy remains locked up, his legal team insisting every allegation is fabricated. His children, except Quincy, have continued to publicly stand by the pneumonia ruling, at least on paper. But the cracks are showing. Christian and Justin's names have already surfaced in lawsuits, dragging the family further into the spotlight whether they like it or not. The twins, Delilah and Jesse, have stayed completely silent. And Quincy, he's finally making his move. The real question isn't just what this documentary might reveal, it's what happens after it does. Because if Kim Porter's passing wasn't exactly what the public was told, if Al B. Shore's near-fatal collapse wasn't just bad luck, and if this pattern holds the way insiders suggest, then this story stops being about one tragic loss. It becomes about a machine, a system that may have been operating in plain sight for decades. And if Quincy and 50 really have the proof they claim, that machine could be exposed for what it truly is. The only thing left to wonder is how far the fallout spreads. Because once this drops, the conversation won't be about if questions exist. It'll be about who answers them. And when this finally drops, it won't just be about what happened. It'll be about who else knew and who helped keep it buried. That's where things get really uncomfortable.
Or didn't he? Well, if he didn't, he's got a lot to explain. Well, apparently what Diddy's done now, which is a very interesting thing, is he's on the offensive of sorts. That's right, Sean Diddy Combs has initiated a $100 million defamation lawsuit.
We've all heard the whispers about Diddy's infamous gatherings, the ones where careers took off, reputations got wrecked, and according to multiple lawsuits, boundaries were crossed in ways that left lasting damage. But what if those events weren't only about power and control? What if they also doubled as the backdrop for something much darker? Because once you start lining up the stories, a chilling picture begins to form. A pattern where disappearances and unexplained tragedies seem to circle the same orbit and somehow always worked in favor of one man. When you connect Kim Porter's passing with other high-profile figures tied, even loosely, to Diddy's world, it stops feeling random. It starts feeling systematic. Take Heavy D, a beloved rapper and former Bad Boy affiliate who collapsed in 2011 at just 44 years old. His passing was attributed to a pneumonia-related illness, and no full autopsy was ever made public. Then there's Bobby Christina Brown, found unresponsive in a bathtub in 2015. Her case was ruled a tragic accident, yet her autopsy, just like Kim's, listed lobar pneumonia as a contributing factor. That detail keeps repeating and people notice. And then there's the eerie parallel to Brittany Murphy's sudden death in 2009. Another natural causes ruling, another pneumonia explanation, another case where family and fans were left convinced there was more beneath the surface than what they were told. All three had ties, direct or indirect, to Diddy's orbit. All three left behind unanswered questions that were never properly addressed. And all three shared one unsettling similarity. Their exits removed people who may have known too much, seen too much, or could have spoken up if given the chance. That's the part that makes this impossible to ignore.
Afraid of coming forward. They've been afraid of what he could potentially do to them within the industry, what he could do to them professionally, maybe even personally. And so, yes, it's been a dark secret they've held on to for a very, very long time.
Now let's talk about the money, because this isn't just about justice for Kim or the other names linked to Diddy's orbit. This is about an empire built on silence and the financial dominoes that could crash the moment that silence breaks. That's when things get real. Kim's alleged memoir, the one her children publicly called fake and Diddy's team dismissed as a shameless cash grab, wasn't just some gossip-filled tell-all. According to sources familiar with it, that book was a ticking time bomb. They claim it detailed Diddy's private dealings, his alleged methods of control, and most importantly, how certain voices were supposedly suppressed before they could ever go public. That kind of information doesn't just damage reputations, it ends careers. Now imagine if that manuscript had surfaced back in 2018, before Cassie Ventura's lawsuit, before federal indictments, before raids on multiple properties. That alone could have shifted everything. Instead, the manuscript allegedly vanished, along with Kim's devices, her notes, and any digital trail that might have backed up her claims. That disappearance didn't feel random to people watching closely. That's not chaos, that's a playbook. And if Quincy's documentary delivers what insiders say it will, this won't just reopen Kim's case, it could trigger a financial and reputational earthquake. Because the second this project drops, lawsuits won't be far behind. Endorsements could disappear overnight. Longtime allies may suddenly go quiet or walk away. And Diddy, if that happens, he won't be fighting for image anymore, just survival. Legal bills stacking up, deals drying out, a legacy hanging by a thread. Because once silence breaks, There's no way to put the pieces back the same way again.
The flight where Diddy said to her,
Showed her
she
the video.
testified
Showed her the
that
freak-off video.
he showed her a video of a freak-off that she participated in and said, if you don't participate in another freak-off when we get to New York, I'm gonna put this video out. I'm gonna send it to your mother.
And that's coercion.
She testified
if it's true.
to that.
If the jury
if they believed her,
yeah.
that's coercion.
That's
they would have cast.
And that brings us right back to Quincy Brown, the wild card in all of this. The son who played the long game, the stepson who stayed quiet when it mattered most. He showed up at Diddy's trial, stood present, but never once spoke in his defense. While his brothers got pulled into the legal crossfire, Quincy somehow stayed just outside the blast zone, and people noticed. For years, folks wondered why Quincy moved so differently, why he never lashed out, why he never dropped emotional posts or clapped back at critics online. Now the picture is getting clearer. This wasn't just grief, it was strategy. Insiders say Quincy wasn't only protecting his sisters like some assumed. He was collecting information, staying alert, and waiting for the one moment where every move would count. And that moment is right now. Diddy is locked up. His inner circle is splintering. His PR machine is in total free fall. And Quincy teaming up with 50 Cent isn't just a power play, it's a straight declaration of war. Let's be real. 50 doesn't do favors. He does business. And if he's putting his time, money, and reputation behind this project, it's because he knows it's about to blow wide open. So the real question is, how far does the blast radius reach?
Specifically challenges allegations suggesting that Mr. Combs and his involvement in the 2018 of his former partner, Kim Porter, whose passing was officially attributed to natural causes by the Los Angeles County.
We've seen versions of this story before. A fallen mogul, whistleblowers stepping forward, documentaries promising to expose everything, but this feels different. Because this isn't just about one powerful man falling, it's about the system that shielded him, the people who stayed silent, and the ones who never got the chance to tell their side. That's why the final question hit so hard. If Kim Porter's passing wasn't what the public was told, then who else was involved in keeping the truth buried? So now it all comes down to this. Who else knew? Who stayed quiet? And what happens when Quincy's documentary finally drags those names into the light where they can't hide anymore? Because one thing is crystal clear. This isn't the end of the story. This is just the opening chapter. And once the truth starts spilling out, it won't stop with one man. It'll hit everyone who helped keep it buried, protected, and brushed aside for years. So let's ask the real question. Do you think Kim Porter's case is the one that finally brings the whole house crashing down? Or is there still someone, somewhere, powerful enough to keep these secrets locked away behind closed doors? Either way, the pressure is building and something has to give. Now it's on you. Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us what you think is really going on. Smash that like button if you're ready for the truth to come out. Share this with anyone who's been following this story from the start. And don't forget to subscribe, because when this documentary finally drops, you'll want to be here first. Front row, no filters.